Ha, soldiers, line up. It's time for my Starship Troopers review.
And just so you know, Starship Troopers is one of my favourite franchises.
So it really made me happy when I was able to play this one. But let's find out whether happiness lasts forever
within Starship Troopers.
And of course, as usual, I won't ask you to like and subscribe right now because it's too early in the video. Well, if you feel like it later on, go ahead. So story-wise, as you probably imagine, you are still fighting the bugs and it's all about combat. Squadding up and doing whatever it takes to get the job done. Movement is pretty standard for these sort of games, but you do get some perks and things that you can use during gameplay in order to either move your character or kind of teleport them around and do other little things
that kind of help whilst you're fighting the bugs.
The only real complaint I had about the movement scheme was the fact that there are places around these maps where you can kind of like get stuck. Not stuck in the scenery, but like places where you think you can just jump down or just drop down a single little level and you can't. So you kind of like get pinned in these areas.
I felt it
a little bit unfair.
The actual main game itself is you're a commander and you have to control troops in the actual fields. And when I say control, I mean you literally take control of them and fight with them and the like. Within this, you can upgrade the abilities of these troops and you can also add different perks such as more damage, more speed and better cooldowns. And as your character levels, eventually you're able to put them out to pasture, or in other words, give them citizenship. But do bear in mind that making them into citizens, and this means that you would have to start a new one off from scratch. Pretty well like if they had been killed in action. As well as this, you can upgrade your weapons as well. Main weapon, secondary weapon, and a grenade. The main weapon comes in short range, i.e. shotguns, or long range, i.e. whatever a long range weapon is, SMG or whatever. Handguns basically are your second weapon and these can be kind of upgraded as well for a better type of gun. And then the grenades are pretty well the same. Although saying this, playing through just a few levels, you will discover that long range is definitely the way to go. And weirdly enough, you have to buy these weapons, although that isn't really that much of a stretch. And within the campaigns themselves, you can actually pick up more credits that are lying around, and also there are some things to shoot which are like trophies. And one more thing before we get onto the actual combat itself, the game can be played in solo and multiplayer. But I would say if you want to play it in multiplayer, you better have some friends with the game as well, as I tried to match myself with different players and I got nothing several times.
So in the end I just gave up.
Each level has a set amount of stages, and at the end of each of these stages, normally you'd have something that you can change your weapon if you wish, or to do some sort of upgrade to your character. So the combat, well, the combat's actually not too bad at times. It is kind of interesting to see these creatures after watching them on films and TV up close. And I'd definitely say there's a decent-ish amount of different bugs on show. And these can range from grounded ones to aerial ones and ones that shoot and ones that don't.
I.e. they have to get up close and personal.
And while there are ender level bosses to most of these stages, there are kind of like mid-stage surprises as well. I think my biggest bugbear, pardon the pun, of the combat was probably the fact that if you start shooting your gun and you haven't gripped it with your other hand just to steady the weapon, then it's really difficult to do so after you started firing. In fact, I'd probably say that it's kind of difficult anyway sometimes. The game does, however, do a great job at trying to make load your weapons, and this as a whole is pretty decent, except for the kind of revolver type gun that I was having major problems reloading at times. I'll also point out that while the game did actually manage to run pretty decently most of the time, I did have a little bit of stuttering and the like from occasion to occasion. Which, while not game breaking, it did really annoy me at times because you'd miss your shot. Graphic and sound. Well, graphically it definitely wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I kind of like was hoping for a bit more detail, but most of the levels kind of looked and had the same feel, even though they were in some different locations. Sound wise, well, you had all the different sounds of the guns and all, and they were okay. It was voiced, but it was kind of weird watching the characters talking to you because their mouths didn't open, which was
just weird.
Apart from that, there was nothing really that stood out. The music was, to be honest with you, a bit especially after you've watched the films, and the music that was in the films just didn't add up, and it was, I don't know, just weirdly placed as well. To be completely truthful to you, the game felt like it was rushed out. There were some good ideas here, like really good ideas, and some things that you kind of like can see were half implemented, but for some reason never really fleshed out or fully finished. And if you finished deciding whether you want to hit them like and subscribe buttons and you made it this far into the video, then just go ahead. And I'm not trying to put anyone off this game, but I kind of like was a little bit worried the fact that I can't get a multiplayer game, and I've sat and tried, which is a shame because this is one of the aspects that I really wanted to actually explore in this game. Oh yes, and one time I played it, the game completely bugged out on me, pardon the pun again, and basically all the bugs kind of like just stood around and didn't actually come for me, which meant that they were off in the distance spawning but not actually running towards me, which caused a problem because I had to reset the game completely. Oh, and it's not very gory either. Considering what the films are like, there's barely any actual decent gore within this game. And I'm kind of confused why, unless it was because, again, it was rushed out and they didn't have time to add it in a decent way. And I think that kind of brings me nicely onto the score. Starship Troopers is, I would imagine, a beloved franchise for many different people. And this game certainly has some decent features about it. But for everything I think, wow, that's a good idea, there's something that I think, oh, crap. And of course, there's that feeling that it's been rushed out. If you've got friends that have the game as well, I think the score would be higher, but it really pains me to do this. But I think the highest I can go on Starship Troopers Continuum is a 6 out of 10, and that pains me. Until next time.